What's up, guys? Today I'm really excited to review one of my favorite fermenters, the Big Mouth Bubbler. From the Northern Brewer website, the siphonless Big Mouth Bubbler plastic fermenter isn't just easier to use, it's better for your beer. Fight oxidation and contamination by keeping your fermenter closed for transfers. Never open the lid to insert an auto siphon, just turn a valve and you're set. Best of all, you'll have clear beer. Gently rack liquid from the spout in a secondary without disturbing the trube. Make your brew day easier and your beer better with the siphonless Big Mouth Bubbler. Welcome back to the channel. We are in like week 5 or something of quarantine. My hair hasn't been cut in a long while, and so I'm starting to look like a Mexican Tom DeLonge. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Anyways, I thought while I was thinking of video ideas, why not just do an honest review of the Northern Brewer Big Mouth Bubbler. It happens to be one of my favorite fermenters, and I'll get into the reasons why. You get a good idea when you're looking for a new fermenter, if you're upgrading from the bucket, why this is also a good sort of level up without you having to spend way too much money. So let's get started, right? So in this case, I have a 6.5 gallon fermenter. It's plastic, as you can see. If you want to know off the bat, plastic isn't super ideal because if you scratch the insides and make it porous, that gives an opportunity for bacteria to thrive. So eventually, I'm gonna have to replace this if I use it and abuse it, pretty much. It comes with a spigot, so you can get the spigoted version. There is a non-spigoted version. The cool thing about that is that after you're done fermenting, the yeast cake will be down below, and you can siphon the beer off without getting any of the yeast cake there. You can just tip it over a little bit to get any beer left. So that's pretty cool. It also has the markings along the side here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that extra half gallon is up here. And that gives you plenty of space to do a 5-gallon batch. Quite honestly, so they would say use this for your primary, use a 5-gallon for your secondary to reduce oxygenation. But you really don't have to do that. Racking to the secondary was done back in the day when yeast wasn't as technologically advanced as it is now, like our gear is. So you can leave it longer on the yeast case, and if you don't ever disturb your setup, you shouldn't have to worry about oxygenation. So this could be a really good, just one fermenter for you starting out. I do have a 5-gallon version of this as well, so when I do rack to the secondary, I do it often, even though it's not entirely necessary, but I like the results I get from racking it to a secondary. That aside, let's get back to the 6.5 gallon. So what's cool about the Big Mouth fermenter as well is that it comes with this sort of universal lid style, and in this case, I actually purchased the depth charge, which is a mesh hop attachment. Oops, I'm doing it wrong. A mesh hop attachment that just goes in like so and locks in, and you put it in like that and you're all hunky-dory. Pretty cool. It helps the hops get distributed and create as much surface area as possible. So if you're using like a cheesecloth, you'll see that it's kind of restricted to the size of that cheesecloth, but you want to get the hops as much surface area to the beer in contact with the beer as possible. So this is really nice. The build quality is a little weird. It's kind of like got this sort of rock and roll to it. If you can kind of see from the bottom here, there's this sort of like weird thing there. When I first got it, I thought, oh, maybe that's so I can tilt it over or whatever to get more beer out of the spigot, but it's perpendicular to the spigot, so I don't think that was the purpose at all. It's definitely not a stainless steel fermenter, that's for sure. People have had a problem with these fermenters is if you've noticed the lid here, it's got sort of these 4 sections, and after it's fermented for just a couple of days, it'll pop up like that. So a lot of people just stack books on top. I saw a guy say, hey, the problem is that you have sanitization liquid around it, and so you need to let it dry first. I even tried that and it didn't work. It still popped up. And then I started really thinking about it. If you notice the shape of the big mouth here, and if we can get a little closer, it kind of does this ever so slightly. And if you look closer to the lid, you'll notice that it also does that very slightly, and these rings here protrude enough to where there's contact. So even if it pops up to the lowest ring, you're still not risking oxidization. So that was my conclusion, and it definitely was true when I made the beer, but how can we show that? And so I thought, I have a CO2 tank, let's just recreate fermentation. So let's get to it. I'm gonna create a mess that I am going to definitely get in trouble for. As you'll see, just a little bit of pressure is gonna make this thing bubble. So I'm probably gonna make a mess. We're just giving it 1 pound per square inch. You can already kind of see. There we go. So we just have a little bit going. Some active fermentation. And I don't see too much going on here. I see the lid kind of opening up on this side. Give it some more. Let's see, where are we at? Almost at 2 psi. So the first ring, which has sat on top of it the whole time, is starting to lift up a little bit, but not too much. And this is insane amount of pressure going through there, and there's nothing coming out the sides. We can go ahead and squirt the sides. They should bubble up if we have any problem. Let's crank this guy up. Oh yeah, you can see it start to lift a little bit. Okay, let's turn it off. So as you can see there, it kind of moved around, but it was still coming through the airlock, which is probably the most important part. So I wasn't seeing any. I had sprayed this before. I sprayed it again, as you saw, and I'm not seeing anything come out the sides. I mean, it's purely coming through here. If we were having escape issues from anywhere else, we'd probably see everything sort of equalized, because it's found every escape route possible. And it starts to level out, but it's clearly coming straight through the airlock. So I have this turned off. I'm gonna crank this guy up to, let's do what's safe, like 25 psi. Awesome, but look, as you notice, this lid didn't pop off. The only thing that popped off was the airlock. That's actually pretty good. Now, when I've dealt with this in the real world, that slow build of pressure does start to make this lid kind of come up. But that's okay, because the rings, they still create that lock so that air doesn't get through, and it just focuses on coming out the airlock. Now, you're never gonna make a beer that expels 25, okay, it was more like 30, I'm not gonna lie, it was like 30 psi. And even then, as it came out, it took a little bit. Now, to be fair, I had to fill up this whole thing, but we've been filling it up for the last few minutes anyway, so, you know, whatever. But that's awesome. So yeah, so whenever you've heard people sort of complain about the lid, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So let's summarize here. Let's start with the cons. It's plastic. It also has these sort of like, these like actual bubbles in here, which are kind of a pain, because it protrudes out here, but then it's indented in here, so you might get some stuff trapped in there, so it might be just a little bit of a pain to clean. It doesn't feel, quite honestly, like a great piece of equipment. So if you're looking for sturdiness and longevity, probably not your go-to. But the pros, there are cool attachments that you can buy, like I showed you, the mesh hop bullet, or I think they call it a depth charge. The Spigot is a nice piece, especially for a lower cost option such as this. And if you want to get the 6.5 Spigot version, it's around $40. A glass carboy, which if you've ever broken on accident, hello darkness my old friend, can be a pain. Those are around $25 to $30, so you know, for upgrading to a plastic big mouth with a Spigot is not too much off. But yeah, as you can see, there's no general problem with the lid. It's a good first time fermenter. It'll last you a little while. You want to see it. Oh, I can't believe I didn't even mention that. Like, if you want to see fermentation take place, something see-through like this, rather than like a bucket kit where it's like literally like a Home Depot bucket, like this is a great move from there. If you're starting out fresh and you're wondering if I should do something like this versus a bucket, I say just go ahead and make the investment right away, because even though there's a price difference, you don't want to buy that and then immediately go, I want to see what's happening, and then go and buy another piece of equipment. So that's why I highly recommend this. Well, thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well during this quarantine. Take this poll. If you have used the Big Mouth Bubbler and liked it, it'll be right up here in the corner. Hit like if you like this video, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.